Joining me today on Remarkable Amplified is Nicola Major, Vice President, Culture and Communications at the Responsive Group. Nicola, I'm thrilled to have you as a guest, and our connection goes way back. And I think it goes back to the early days at Point Click Care, where you're the first client I had a chance to interact with as an executive assistant to the founder and CEO. Beyond our roles, what I found out really quickly is that we have a similar passion for being of service to others, working on culture, growing a business while making every moment matter. So, to start, I'd love for you to chat about what you do at Responsive Group.
Thank you, Angeline, and thank you very much for having me on. Excited to be here. So my role over 20 years now with Responsive has grown and changed as the organization has. Currently, as VP of Culture and Communications, obviously the communication piece is really important, internal, external communication. I do regular updates for our team members and families and residents, along with any media inquiries that may come around. Brand reputation and management is a big part of what I do. I'm also very passionate about our team member wellness and well-being and team member engagement as a whole. There's also the, project management, whether it's projects in one home or across business units or across our entire organization. There's never 2 days in a row that are the same, which is also very, it's challenging, but also very rewarding in my role.
Is that probably why you've been at the company for this long? It's just always been growing, evolving, and challenging?
Absolutely. And I'm very fortunate that I was always given the opportunity to grow.
Was this the role that you always wanted to be when you grew up? Maybe talk a little bit about your career journey.
Sure. So no, this was not the career I would have chosen. Back in the day, when there's always I want to be a police officer or a doctor, or I actually wanted to be a neurosurgeon at one point. But given the fact that my science grades probably weren't the best they could have been, my one passion was I wanted to be, and I'm going to date myself here, but Julie McCoy, who was the cruise director on the Love Boat.
Oh, that was such a fun role.
Yes, it certainly looked like it was. But it's interesting. So that's as a little girl wanting to do that. And then growing up, I realized, love to be the photographer and create moments and special things with friends and family. And I've had a real love for travel since, my mid-teens, I would say. So all of those pieces sort of, although I'm not Julie McCoy, I get to come into working with Responsive. And I am able to create a lot of special moments, create the memories that people can hold close to them, as opposed to it just being business. There's a personal touch. As you said earlier, it's making every moment matter for those that I get the privilege of working with.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, I would love for you to share a personal story of a moment that mattered, or highlighting something that has really kind of stuck and resonated with you.
So I was going to start with my Responsive journey, but I think I've been fortunate to have great role models. My mom and dad were excellent role models. Watch out for other people. Ensure that you help people where you can. We emigrated to Canada with an 8x8 packing crate when I was 7 years old. And I think of how brave my dad had to be to do that. And then creating this new life here. And my mom with no post, not even probably midway through high school in England, creating this life and a career and watching them interact and just be so kind and in service to others. So you can achieve so much without knocking anybody down as you're going. One of the things that I think stands out for me in my career is working with Bill Delane, who's a founder and president of Responsive. So I started my career as Bill's EA, which is where you and I first met. Mm-hmm. And then my role grew as the organization grew, which was great. But the lessons along the way from Bill, as one of my many mentors within the organization and within the sector, was he never needed a gatekeeper. It showed me that he was available to people. It didn't matter if it was another CEO or it was a PSW in one of our homes. If somebody wanted a little bit of his time to talk to him about something, there was an issue that mattered to them, he was open he was accessible, and they were as important. It didn't matter. Everybody was important, no matter who that was. And I've always thought, just what a great role model, what a great way to live your life. There is no hierarchy. It's we're all here. We're all good. We're all working hard, and we have our interests, and we have our jobs and our families and these aspects of our life. But um, be open and accessible to people, and honestly do what you can to support them and raise them up.
What I often reflect on and think back to in terms of being in service of others is that, you know, when you're in business, sometimes you think, oh, okay, you're going to be doing this for a purpose that leads to, greater profitability or revenue. But sometimes you just do things because it is the right thing to do. And where I saw both you and Bill be of service to the healthcare industry and the community was that we had invited you to speak at a kickoff and you presented this incredible storytelling moment. Have you seen storytelling specifically, especially from a communicator, someone who leads that? How have you seen storytelling transform communities or individuals?
That's a great question. I think the people are realizing that you don't need to have an English degree to communicate. You don't have to be really necessarily strong with the written word anymore to communicate. The idea, and sure, social media and our whole digital age has brought about this ability to share and tell amazing stories with little video clips, right? You Photos. I always say, like, if you back up any couple of bullet points with a great photo or a little video segment, it just brings things to life, which I think is amazing, because we need to do more of the positive storytelling. We're inundated with negative, unfortunately, whether it's the news, social media. The more on a positive storytelling that we can do, the better. The video that you were referring to was our empathy video, which I find it hard to believe, but that was launched in November of 2017. Like, it's incredible to think that it's so many years old already, but it's still so relevant and so impactful. Really one of the proudest projects I've worked on, although there've been many great projects along the way. But I'll refer to it. We've used some of the footage, we've used the stories, but it really just brought about that everybody has a story. And no matter how, no matter what you see on the outside, it's the old adage, you can't judge a book by its cover. There's so much that's going on in people's lives that we just don't know. Thinking about that and not judging, uh, being kind, all of those pieces I think are so important. And I also think it makes you a better storyteller by realizing that.
What was the inspiration for the video? Why an empathy video?
So the video came to us. It's actually based on a video by Cleveland Clinic, and they do some fantastic storytelling. Huge, massive organization with a big budget for all of those things as well. But we watched it at one of our senior meetings, and everybody around the table was just so touched by the impact that this video had, that we said, okay, we need to do this for long-term care. We need to do this for the sector. And it was from that meeting to a week later, we were, looking at a production crew, and we had a small steering committee, and then we started, bringing everything together. But it was amazing to realize, again, stories of our residents and team members in our homes, because everybody in that video is part of our organization. Some residents don't have family, they don't have visitors, they are struggling with various different things, team members that are in difficult relationships at home. So it's the quote that we use at the beginning is, could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? So I think if you stop and you think about that, it's, that gives you that impact.
Absolutely. And I have to admit, having watched it in the moment and subsequent times after that, the impact is palpable. Like there was not a dry eye in that entire room. And at that time, there's probably over 2,000 people. And today, and as you mentioned, it was filmed in 2017 till now. The themes, the emotions that brings up, it's still very relevant. And there is something that you can pull out of it at every single view. So I will be linking the video to our discussion and would love for people to carry on and continue forwarding it and sharing it, because if you don't get something from it, then I would have to say, maybe perhaps you didn't look and dig deep enough, because there is something there for everybody. But there's also a bit of an art to storytelling. I know we can have so many ways in order to do that, whether it's through videos. Some people use social media videos in short bites, or you could write it, or you could share it in the form of podcasting or other ways. But in order to make storytelling really effective, what's some wisdom that you would share to really make sure that it does leave a lasting impact?
Being authentic, being vulnerable, being real and true and transparent, being you, being keeping it very real. When we're storytelling about others, again, keep it real, keep people, don't pretend to be someone or something that you're not. I think those are really key. Telling a real story versus an image, or I guess we can all reach for things, but let's not pretend we're there yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being aspirational, right? But I think there's also something to be said about people connect through realism, the organic ways in which people show up. And I think it's really important for people to really share where they are currently in the space, as opposed to projecting something that we want people to see.
Yeah.
I think it's more, I think, yeah, so many people just got so connected because it was very real.
Yes. The other thing I just add, when we're thinking of being in service to others, so there's the give and take there. I was thinking of the sharing openly, because you never, being open to what you're going to receive. So it's that gaining wisdom without an agenda. It's beautiful to take a moment and share and listen, the active listening, but without an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Just enjoy somebody for who they are. And I know that our work lives are busy, but even if you can take a couple of minutes at the beginning of a formal meeting and have a conversation, reaching out a little bit more, reaching in a little bit more than, oh, how are you? Fine. How are you? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
I love to remember people's partners' names or their children's names or grandchildren, or where they've gone on vacation, those connection points that we have those similarities that we can talk about those things. I think that creating those real relationships also helps with the storytelling aspect of it.
100%. I think often about kind of our connection and our relationship, and it's just grown through the years. And it's taking that bit of time to get to know someone beyond the surface, even beyond, what we tend to try to box people in, whether that's a role or an identity that comes with just how we have to show up at work. But what I'd like to do is to take us back to a bit about the conversation around serving others. And I think you said give and take. So a lot of times individuals who are at service to others more so than not are constantly doing the giving, and that can lead to burnout. So how would you use some strategies to avoid burnout while serving others?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because sometimes you can give and give and give, but at the end of the day, I think you have to set some boundaries. And I think that that's okay. You almost have to give yourself permission to do that. Allowing yourself to stop and step back, right? You can't, also understanding that as much as you want to be solution oriented and solve problems, that also can't always happen. Sometimes you have to talk things through with people, and they have to recognize, they've got to find their own strength, their tools or skills to get them to the next step. It can't just be you. I think the other piece that, and I didn't actually give this as much thought until we started talking about the podcast, was for the storyteller, stop and celebrate your moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
think about, wow, that was a great day, or that was a great week. I'm hoping I'm going to do this when the podcast is over and say, that went so well. Good for you. um, but yeah, and then there's got to be something that you do for yourself. So, carve out a little bit of time. I mean, we may not be able to do it every day. Hopefully, you can find a few minutes,
Yeah.
but certainly a little bit in the week or over the course of a month, or even if you look out over 12 months, planning something, having something to look forward to, that's just for you, I think are
Mhm.
really important pieces.
What's something that you do just for you? What's something you enjoy?
So I think my favorite things that I really just do for me, and it's the quiet, peaceful moments. So I love hot yoga. I love to read, and I love to sit at my cottage and just look out over the water.
Oh,
So
that sounds delightful.
yes, they're all like definitely the happy places for me to be.
As I think of my happy place, it's right here, right now. I do have the good fortune of being able to talk to a lot of people in my day job. But one of the things that really connects with me and fills my cup and gives me a lot of energy is connecting with friends, uh, people who we have commonalities, passion for service. And so I really appreciate your time with me today. And as we close off our discussion, just want to find out kind of one last piece of advice. What's something that you'd love to leave for our listeners to think of or practice as part of our conversation?
Well, my motto is and it's taking somebody else's phrase, but in a world where you can be anything, be kind. I think if we start our day, end our day, think about an interaction that we're going into with kindness in our mind versus stress or worry or anxiousness or any of those pieces, we're going to be better for it. We're going to serve that other individual better, and we're going to serve ourselves better.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that advice. Thank you for sharing your story, your journey, and also for being of service to others. I've always valued our friendship, the many moments that we've shared together. I will continue to look forward and cherish them and appreciate your kindness for being on the podcast. So excited for our next conversation and get together, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks so much,
Right.
Nicola.
Thanks, Angeline.
Goodbye.